Hello, good evening, and a very warm welcome to the Hot Seat. In the Hot Seat today is a man who's made the news, but he's had many, many years of public service, and he starts on a new chapter sometime soon. But to tell us all about what he's done thus far is Mr. Karnasena Hettiarachchi, former Defense Secretary, and now earmarked to be our man in Germany. Good evening, Mr. Hettiarachchi, and welcome to the Hot Seat.
Good evening for us.
And were you looking remarkably relaxed? Why is that? Is that because you just left one job?
Yeah, I think these days I'm unemployed and I'm just relaxing. You know, this is a kind of a luxury that I am enjoying in my public service.
So a welcome small break, is it?
Yeah.
When do you go to Germany?
Well, I think end of this month I'm planning to go.
Right. So are you busy packing?
Well, not much, you know. My wife is there to do all that.
So your wife's doing all that?
Yeah, yeah.
Lucky you.
Yes.
You really are lucky to have had such an understanding partner, isn't it?
Yes.
Just touching on that, on this personal aspect, how important is it to work as a team in a marriage?
Well, I think, you know, it says that every successful man, there's a woman behind him.
An even more successful woman, really.
Yeah.
And you'd be very lucky.
It contradicts because if you say Mr. Narendra Modi, not married, the chief minister of that particular province is not married, state is not married, Jayalalitha was not married, and so many successful men and women, Ravi Shankar is not married. So many people, they are not married, but they are very, very successful people. So that contradicts the previous
general perception.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting point. We must try and do a program about that. But in the meantime, I want to ask you that. It's a question that appears certainly amongst the cocktail circuit. It is the talk. And when there is no detail, the talk is slightly amplified. What's on everyone's mind is, were you asked to leave, or did you leave this job with some sort of mutual understanding?
Well, I think I was not asked to leave.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think as you suggested, maybe it's a mutual understanding. And you know, I also believe in this. You know, when you do a job, if you are going for a very long period in one position, I think that is not good thing. It's changing the jobs and new people to come in and do different way of managing places. Will provide benefits to the people.
So I see. So to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Okay. But you and the president, you go back a long way, right?
Of course.
You went to school together.
Yeah.
And he went one way and you went?
Yeah, he became a politician, I became an engineer.
Indeed. And how close we are? We're really close.
Yeah, we are really close, and we have been working together in different levels in the public service, and he was a minister, deputy minister, and I've been working with him. So it was quite interesting, and he's an interesting person to work with.
It's very rare that we are able to ask these questions, and I'm sure our viewers would like to know as well. Is it terribly easy to work with him?
Well, I think if you understand him properly, and if you know what kind of reaction or what kind of service that he's expecting from you, if you understand that, it is very easy to work. So anyway, it's a general thing, you know. When you're working with your subordinates or superiors, you have to understand people. If you have a better understanding, not only the public office sphere, but even the private level, if you understand him properly, then it is easy to work with them.
Mr. Hettiarachchi, the former Defense Secretary was rather sort of well known by the whole country for different reasons. But he was well known. For whatever the reason, he was well known. And of course, once the the war on terrorism came to an end, the people, for want of a better word, associated him with that victory or with that success of that operation. And so he's sort of well known. Was he a hard act to follow?
Well, I think the time that he was Defense Secretary and a little bit after that, after the defeating the terrorism, it's two different environments, status or whatever the thing you call it. The job is different, right? So probably I would rather say that during the wartime, I'm not supposed to be the most suitable person to be the Defense Secretary.
During wartime?
Wartime, because I don't know much about the militaries and the fighting and the strategies and things like that, right? But he was a former military guy, so he's good to, he can understand things better. But now, after the war, the situation is different. And we have to use the military for reconciliation and various rebuilding the infrastructure and, building the relationship between militaries and the people in the north and east. So it's a different ball game, I would rather say, right?
Yes, indeed. You've actually answered another question that I had lined up for you. But do you think that in peace times it's okay to have a Defense Secretary who has no military background, like you just said?
Well, I think not only peacetime, but generally worldwide, people would like to have a civilian to manage defense ministries, right? Because, the military experts are in the tri-forces, or whatever the forces that you have. So if you can understand them, if you can really read them, after a few months, you will understand how the military should be managed by the Defense Secretary. I think during the peacetime, I think the role is different. So military man may not be suitable to hold the Defense Secretary portfolio. So it is better because you need a lot of other, kinds of things, because the military, the defense ministry is to see that the security of the country is looked after. Now the security in general, people, when you talk about security, it will come to your mind that the weapons and the uniforms, uniform people. But I think my definition of security is different.
Right.
And our definition, that's the reality is that we have the political security, we have the social security, we have the economic security, we have the financial security, and security is manifold. Even unemployment threatens the security of a country, right? And if you don't have water, now take Singapore. Singapore's security is water. So Singapore is spending a lot of money to water self-sufficient by year 2060, because 2011 Malaysia terminated their first one of those two. There are two agreements. One was terminated in 2011. By that time, Singapore has done a lot of work, and they found sufficient water for them. The next agreement will be terminated in 2060. So after that, there won't be any supply from Malaysia. So they have to have their own water. They have to collect water, whatever the rainfall falling in Singapore, and collect them to Marina Bay, and they they try to convert that water for drinking purposes, right? So, some countries, the security is different, right? So therefore, you cannot say that the arms and the military personnel can provide security to a country.
It's only one component.
One component.
On that note, we'll take a short break and come right back. Don't go away. After all, this is the Hot Seat. and welcome back to the Hot Seat. In the Hot Seat tonight is Mr. Karnasena Hettiarachchi, the outgoing Defence Secretary and the incoming Ambassador of Sri Lanka to Germany. Mr. Hettiarachchi, that's a wonderful take on security. But let me ask you this question. We had incidences of weapons that were found in the seas by the Sri Lankan Navy in an interception and so on. I'm not only talking about that one company, but I'm also talking in general. When you find these weapons and you find that on investigation they are without serial numbers, what happens to these weapons?
No, I didn't get your point correctly, because you are referring to a seizure of some
weapons on board a vessel.
On board a vessel.
Yeah.
I think this can happen because I think the investigations are still continuing.
Yeah.
And we don't know the reasons behind, changing or erasing these numbers.
Yeah.
This can happen when you are using weapons also due to abrasion. You will come across this situation. But I cannot make any comment because there are no reports about those particular weapons so far submitted by the who is this Department of Government Analysts.
No, the government analysts.
Government analysts, yeah.
No, well, I think my question to you is there a system in place where weapons so found like when the customs or even the Navy, where if they recover, let's say, gold, it's then sent off to customs, and then there's a system to deal with that.
Yeah.
They'll auction it, they'll do whatever. In that same context, when you seize and when you have found weapons that are without serial numbers or missing whatever, is there a system in place that allows you to absorb that into, let's say, our police force or to our army or to anyone like that?
Generally, we don't use such weapons in our militaries or the police department.
Right.
So what we do is we destroy them.
Right.
Right. So therefore, there is no question of using it. Whatever the weapons we found, mostly they were destroyed, which was used by some other party.
Right.
Because when you have a weapon, you must have an end-user certificate.
Right.
If you don't have end-user certificate, you cannot use weapons in a government forces, legitimate force.
So the end-user certificate for weapons that are held by the Sri Lanka Army, for example, who gives you that certificate?
Well, if you are importing from China, the Chinese
will give you
the end-user certificate, and if you are going to resell these weapons to some other country, then again you need to issue an end-user certificate to that country.
Okay.
So otherwise, it's not legal, use of weapons.
Right. So this is an international requirement.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. The reason I asked you that is because in the last few days there was this bank robbery, and the weapon used there, they say, had no serial numbers. So we were just asking you about that, actually. But in the meantime, during your tenure, of course, we had this issue of maritime security, and now that has now been you've reversed the previous decisions, and that maritime security operation is being conducted by the Sri Lankan Navy again. Are you able to tell us what sort of financial benefit the Sri Lankan Navy has been able to make?
It is not the Sri Lankan Navy, it is the government of Sri Lanka.
Right.
They have made, I can't exactly tell you how much, but it's a substantial, I think the billions of rupees being
I had a figure yesterday given to me by a researcher suggesting it was about 3.9 billion.
3.9, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I think every day we are boarding people, we are charging the fees, and we are planned to increase, and we are also plans to decrease some of the charges because to encourage more customers to Sri Lanka. And things are happening, and we have been discussing this matter both with Navy and the present the Ratna Lanka company.
Right. And of course it's not only for just big ships, it's also for shipping fleets, isn't it? Fishing.
Fishing.
fleets.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
So it's quite a big operation.
That's right.
And Sri Lanka is earning, well, the countries are earning invaluable foreign exchange.
That's right.
Something that had been taken away from the Sri Lankan Navy and given to private party.
Well, even at that time was done by the Sri Lankan company.
Yeah.
Whether you get it to the government or to the private sector, they make money and it is coming to Sri Lanka.
Only if the monies actually do come back to Sri Lanka.
Exactly. That is the point, because when you do business and if you siphon out those monies to other countries,
Yeah.
then that's a big problem, and it even amounts to misuse of funds,
Yeah.
or money laundering and so forth.
But
Financial crimes, I would rather say.
Yeah, of course. But anyway, we'd better not go into too much of that, because there's a ongoing investigation and
That's
ongoing
right, exactly.
court cases, so on, and we'll leave those things out of the way. I think time for another break. Don't go away. This is, after all, the Hot Seat. And welcome back to the Hot Seat. In the Hot Seat tonight is Mr. Karunasena Hettiarachchi, Engineer Karunasena Hettiarachchi, the former Defence Secretary, the incoming Ambassador of Sri Lanka to Germany. Actually, Mr. Hettiarachchi, you're an engineer. You had a huge contribution in public service. You've been chairman of the Water Board and so on. And your interview with us on the flood situation went down pretty well, because everyone left wondering how you knew so much about the floods and the water and the behavior. But what I want to ask you is this, and because this will be for the record, what is your legacy? What do you consider to be your legacy as the Defence Secretary?
Well, I think one of the main things that I have to do is to follow the government policy, and which is sometimes a government commitment to reconciliation, right? So government had quite good relationship with the West and also the European Union particularly, and we have been working with them to establish good governance, freedom of expression, media freedom, and all that is being done by this government. So I think the militaries, also the Defence Ministry also will have to fall in line with that. So we have been working with the communities. We are working, we were doing work related to release of lands which were acquired by the militaries in the past. So we are successful in releasing about 30,000 acres, little more than 30,000 acres of land to the private lands to the owners. And also we release quite a lot of government lands for the purpose of developments. So we are, re-establishing our military establishments and relocating them to suit the requirement in that area. So that was one of the big achievement. And also you could see that we had those days victory parade.
Yeah.
Now we have given up the victory parade. That was a government decision. So we had some reconciliation cultural shows.
Right.
So that we established our good relationship with our other communities like Muslims and the Tamils and others, right? So that is one of the things that it was a very difficult thing for the militaries to get oriented to that. But however, they responded very well. And you can see that some of the things like building houses in Jaffna, about 133 houses we built in 2 months. And His Excellency the President went and, given these lands and the deeds to those people. They are very happy with the housing which was constructed by the military persons. So this is kind of how military is looking after the communities in that area. So this was one of the big challenge, and we did it very well, and still continuing in that direction. We are continuing to build more and more houses for the people who doesn't have lands and the houses in that
Who have been affected by the war.
IDPs. And we started Excellency the President, he guided us to do quite a lot of new things, such as, establishment of Institute of National Security,
right.
which is first time in Sri Lanka we established to do research in related to security, internal security, external security like regional and international security, and what is happening around the world, the economic activities and various things, like even people talk about South China Sea issues there, and also the North Korean issues, and all that is affecting, the entire region, Asia Pacific. So we have been working on that institute, and it is very, infant stage because it's about 6-7 months ago we established that, and it is they are conducting good research work now, and also we are publishing journals and things like that, and we also have security salons. People come and talk and discuss matters, timely topics. It's a thing, and we invite people, limited number of people from embassies, international organizations, private sector.
Would you sit around in a room?
Yeah, and there'll be some presentation. After that, they discuss about some problems, like problems in Kashmir, in Pakistan or Afghanistan, or in Sri Lanka, or the floods in Sri Lanka. All these issues are being discussed because they are security-related matters. And also, most of my military persons, and they used to go to other countries to do their national defense service, the qualification we call NDC or NDU. And this is a kind of a postgraduate level program which are being conducted in India, China, and various other countries, the European countries. So we don't get that much of berths in those countries, and it's also very expensive. And also most of the people who are going to command the militaries, they need to have this qualification, right?
Right.
So what happened is, we didn't have such institute, and so we have submitted a cabinet paper, and the former speaker's residence, Mumtaz Mahal, was given to the Defence Ministry to establish the Defence College.
Right, so there's a National Defence College located there.
So
well, that's fine, because it's good that you're making good use of this wonderful and iconic building. The only thing is, what will you do with all those cars that are parked? They're kind of rotting, those cars.
I think either we should, I don't know, that's not my cars.
No, I don't. Of course not.
It does not belong to my ministry. And we can ask the respective ministries to take it away, and also auction it or sell it or whatever they like to do it. Indeed,
indeed. But last and final question: you're looking forward to going to Germany?
Yes.
And your diplomatic skills will come into play then.
Yeah.
How do you intend coping with the large number of the diaspora, the Tamil-speaking diaspora, who have made Germany their home and who may view you with some trepidation because you are the former Defence Secretary?
Well, I think recently I went to Australia and I met His Excellency Skanda Kumar, he's the High Commissioner to Australia. And this gentleman is recently has established the relationship with the diaspora. And these communities, they used to contact and talk to the ministry, and recent floods, they are the first people to, donate money for this flood relief. And likewise, I was thinking it is better that you talk to these people and see what's their problem is all about. How could that we can work on the areas where we have some agreement, right? The things like, we have strengths and weaknesses. So weak areas we'll just keep aside, and we can work on the strengths. So some of the areas where we can work together. So when you work like that, all those weaker areas or the problematic areas can be tackled step by step. So initially I would like to establish some contact with those people and discuss with them what's their problem and what are their views, and communicate to the government. And these are some of the issues that was raised by these people for the government to address them here back in Colombo.
That's pretty good. I'm told that reconciliation efforts in this country will sorely miss you. because you have made your own silent but effective contribution towards reconciliation. And some people who work in reconciliation told me that they're going to miss you. But we hope that you will take it forward in Germany, and where lots of our fellow Sri Lankans live and made it their home, and that you will do your special bit to round them up and let them all start thinking as one. And on that score, we wish you all the very best. And we'd like to thank you for all your efforts as the first sort of post-war Defence Secretary. Well done and good luck. And do pop by. Do remember, you can contact us through Skype. Maybe once you're settled in, you can give us an interview when you're seated in your office in Germany.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karunasena Hettiarachchi, for being in the hot seat. And that's it from the hot seat tonight. And we'll see you same time, same place in a fortnight's time. Take care. Good night.